I'm going to call the meeting to order and start with our roll call. Kayla?
Here.
Fred? Here. Nora?
Here.
Kyle is absent today. Dusty?
Here.
Melissa?
Here.
And Patrick, myself. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Oh, yeah. Motion to approve Kyle's absence tonight.
I move to approve Kyle's absence tonight.
I'll second.
All right. Okay. And then any changes to tonight's agenda? Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
All right.
I think I'm only allowed 3 motions on these.
All right, you're almost at your limit, yep. Okay, approval, the minutes from, any changes to the minutes from last month's meeting?
Oh, a word that could be, a word on, but I can't find it now. I thought there was one sentence, but I guess I don't, it's not a huge deal. I don't know where it was at now. Just forget I even said something.
Will you turn on your microphone, Fred?
Well, it wasn't really relevant when I was saying so. Yeah, I just thought there might be a word on in there when I read it. I got to get it called up here. But I'm not sure where it's at. I looked at it again before I left the house. I couldn't find it, so I may have misread it. So
If you find it, you can just send it over to me in an email.
I don't think it makes a big difference.
All right. Do we have someone to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. I'll second.
Okay. Public comments? And there is no one from the public. So moving right along to financial report.
Yeah, so you guys probably have noticed that there's not one attached in here. I think there was, as we roll over into the new year, maybe some bookkeeping stuff that this is going to be a recurring occurrence at the beginning of the year, that I think the books are still getting in order. We still have the same exact amount of money that we had last time. $1,200 roughly. I can pull up the exact number if you'd like, but it's roughly $1,200. I think 59 is the amount that we have. So I think that we do need to think about this for the future as well, that I think for the first couple months each year, we're probably not going to have that same report. So just something to keep in mind. But we can usually keep track of that stuff from the end of last year's, as long as we don't spend money. So it was maybe more of a snafu for me than it will be for you all. And that's it for that.
Okay. And then on to the O'Connor Fund.
Yep. Sorry that there's a blank report at the beginning of this one. I'm guessing that there's also a blank report in the Preservation Awards of Merit. It automatically generates, and I didn't catch it, so I apologize. For the O'Connor Fund, kind of fund summary, you can see that we're down a little bit of money, but I think that we'll rebound in the net assets in both O'Connor 1 and O'Connor 2. But the current available balance is up from January. I think it finally kicked in and hit that we got our new spendable money. So 17,318.94 in O'Connor 1 and 53,579.24 in O'Connor 2. So those are, I'm guessing they're the same percentage increase from both, but those are good increases for the spendable money that we have at hand. And then regarding the stuff that Pam sent as well, I'm guessing that folks are, I have already read through this, so I don't think that I need to read the entire thing, but I can address some of the things that Pam pointed out. I am working on getting the special holding account made at the city. Sounds like it won't be an issue, and people agree that it's an important way for us to be able to track the funds. The revisions have been made. I think that Pam pointed some out, but then she sent another email that said like maybe she wasn't addressing them. So I think that I worked with Neil to get the stuff put up there, but if people have comments, please do let me know. There is the new gift policy is up as well. Oh no, it's not up. Maybe it's just up and we haven't found it because I gave it to Neil as well. I gave everything over and then scheduled the meeting. That's what we have 2 votes about later this evening for the O'Connor Fund pre-application meeting. I've got a number of folks that said that they're going to RSVP. I'm guessing that a lot of folks, I believe I gave them till Friday to RSVP for it. I'm also fine with people coming that didn't RSVP to the whole public out there. I'm guessing that I'll get like a flood of them tomorrow and Friday. Maybe letters just came late and maybe, I don't know. I'm a procrastinator, so perhaps some other folks are as well. Last year, that meeting was very well attended. I think that we had about 35 to 40 people show up, which I think is really good, considering that there's 168 folks that the letter went out to. I did notice this time, I got like 2 emails from folks saying that the property records weren't up to date. I just reused last year's to do it because pulling that list together took quite a bit of time. So 2 out of 168 is not that bad, I guess, of people saying like, hey, we're not at the same place anymore. So I think that those are going to be, it's a profitable meeting in my opinion to let people know kind of what to do, learn from last year's meeting, and hopefully I can walk them through and show them what we are looking for in applications. I think I spent a lot of time last year on just preservation stuff in general, and hopefully this year I can address more grant writing things with them to get some more polished reports in. Happy to entertain any questions that folks have regarding any of those things. And if there are none, we can move along too. So,
All right. For the Preservation Awards of Merit Subcommittee report.
So yeah, we don't have any materials to like present at this meeting quite yet, but I did just kind of want to share that we met on the 24th of January, and we spent most of the meeting just kind of discussing what the current categories are for the Preservation Award of Merit, and also talking about what the questions are in addition on the application, and we compare them to the Michigan Historic Preservation Network Awards to kind of understand, you know, what we're currently working with and what other people are working with. So we just began to talk about adding a potential additional question to the nomination form. We're aware that the nomination form is going to be live soon, so we plan to talk about it more at our next meeting before the next commission meeting, but we just kind of want to be on top of that, whether or not it happens for this year. We also started to develop criteria for evaluating the nominations, and we plan to share that framing, like the framing criteria questions, once we have that developed with everybody, so we're able to all approach reading nominations on the same page and using the same lens, I guess, to judge them. So yeah, that's all for now.
Thank you. Any questions on that? All right. City Hall Local Historic District report.
Again, I trust that folks have read Pam's report. It was a short one. Is there any questions about it?
Has there only been one change to it?
Yep.
Okay. So we're on hold for proceeding on this till they replace.
So Rebecca Kick was publicly announced as the replacement for Jeff Chamberlain as deputy city manager. I know that Pam wrote something up, and I can talk with her about disseminating that to the appropriate people, like Rebecca, to move forward with the plan that she has outlined.
Okay.
Okay. Then we're on to section 106 reviews.
Yep. Just our annual reminder of what these are. The City of Kalamazoo has a programmatic agreement with the State Historic Preservation Office and some other people. It's a long list. Either way, it allows the Historic Preservation Coordinator, me, to review HUD-funded projects in the City of Kalamazoo. It's my opinion that this really expedites the review time for folks who are getting this money. Most of these are going to local agencies that are doing, I'm just going to use the term that Community Home Works uses, but critical home repairs. So they can be broken down into two categories. The first category is for properties that are either eligible for the National Register or listed on the National Register. The second category is properties that are not listed or eligible for listing on the National Register. You'll see that the second portion of that list is much longer than the first portion of that list. We had 14 that were National Register eligible / listed, and we had 80 that were not eligible or listed. This is down like 10 reviews from last year, but we're holding in the same ballpark. If people have any questions about any of the reviews, please let me know.
Okay. Next item is the payments for the O'Connor Fund, the grant pre-application meeting.
Yep, so these are going to go hand in hand, the next two. I really want to take this opportunity and all the opportunities that I have to really thank KNAC for being understanding with us. I think that having to be able to pay with a commission is an interesting thing. I think next month, it didn't come up until after I wrote this, but I think next month we might need to explore some kind of contingency fund that I'm able to access without having to go to you guys, and then I can review it afterwards. Because if tonight's meeting would have been canceled, we would have been in a very interesting position. KNAC is very, very understanding about how we need to disperse the funds, and they allow me, they always say, we know you're good for it, so once I'm able to check with you guys, they're cool with us holding off on the payment a little bit. This is not me taking a jab at anyone else, but I think that a company like Jimmy John's probably would not front us sandwiches, right? So it's something to keep in mind, is something that I was thinking about, looking at some kind of contingency fund, even if it was just $1,000, so I could make things, purchases as necessary. And then I could update you guys on it afterwards. We could also set out, obviously, guidelines on what the money could be spent for, but I do think there are times that at the drop of a hat, some money might need to get spent. That's just background. For this next one, which is the pre-application meeting that I was talking about earlier, it's going to be held next week. This is just, oh gosh, I guess both of them are included under this, sorry, and I got a little bit confused. So renting KNAC would be $150 from 12 to noon. That includes, a half an hour before and a half an hour after. So 11:30 really to 2:30 for setup and breakdown of the space. It would just be in the first room that you go into when you go to KNAC, or the First Baptist Church, or 315 West Michigan. We have a great standing relationship with them since I've been on in this position. We've used them for the Historic Preservation Awards of Merit as well. Another thing that came up that I almost forgot about, and I'm very thankful that some of my coworkers also were doing the same thing, is providing lunch for the attendees, because I put that in the letter to the attendees that we'd be providing lunch, so I did not want to forget that. I just chose Jimmy John's because it's pretty quick and simple. We can order a box of them. One of my colleagues recently was doing something for roughly the same amount of people, and the amount of money that they spent was about $240, but I wanted to get, I guess, some buffer room with all of that. So I am recommending that we disperse $150 to KNAC to use for the space for the pre-application meeting, and $250 to be used for the food for the pre-application meeting. I also want to say that since we don't have the holding account, we know that we need to send the money to the city first. I would ask the commission to consider, do we want to spend this out of the city account, or do we want to send it out of the O'Connor Fund? I think regardless of what we do, the money might need to come out of the city account for the Jimmy Johns, just because of the timing.
Okay, and we do have more than $250 in the city account.
Yes.
Yeah.
For some reason, I know that the amount of money that we have is 1186 plus 73. So whatever that amount of money is, that's the amount that we have.
Okay, and we could backfill that from the O'Connor Fund
Yep.
afterwards. Okay.
And happy to entertain questions if folks have them.
Do we also have a motion?
How do we phrase that motion?
So moved, or, that's the way we used to cop out on.
A motion would be something along the lines of, what was that?
I'm not really sure how to phrase it. I'm willing to do it. But
Yeah, so it'd be something along the lines of the HPC is moves to allow the disbursement of $150 to KNAC and $250 to a food vendor to facilitate the O'Connor Grant Program pre-application meeting.
Yeah, I make a motion that we allow that disbursement of $150 to KNAC for use of the space, and then $250 for the food vendor as a disbursement from our account.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Should we do separate roll call votes, or is one roll call vote for both sufficient?
So she made a motion for both, so you can just do it as a single roll call.
Okay. All right. Kayla?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
Nora?
Yes.
Dusty?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes.
Sweet. Again, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, as people say, but I think we've talked about this a lot, but understanding how we're going to be able to spend money in a quick manner is something that we do want to be able to think about. So this is probably like the only time this in May that we're going to do it. So we could probably understand how much money do we need for both of those events on an annual basis, pad it a little bit, and then I think we'd be good.
If we had some sort of pre-approval amount for you to be able to spend, and with a condition, like let's say that we had discussed about spending this at a previous meeting,
Yeah.
And you said $1,000 would be sufficient. Would that give us enough time to be able to do everything, and then we can approve the expenditure at our next meeting? Is that kind of what you were, along the lines of what you were thinking? Would that satisfy what you're looking for?
So you're saying like to set aside the money, I spend it, and then it comes to be approved at the next meeting? Or I set aside the money, come to the next meeting, get it approved, and then spend it?
I'm thinking more along the lines of like we have a threshold up to that you are able to use for business that we've at least talked about. It doesn't mean we've had to approve it yet.
Yeah, and then it gets approved afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that we can refine the language for it. My big concern just gets to be in situations like this, the impending snowstorm. I wasn't sure what I was going to do if we got canceled. That's just a safeguard for myself, obviously, but also for us to make sure that we're living up to the promises that we make to the community for some of these things. I think that we can hash it out. This is something I can certainly put on next month's agenda.
Yeah, I guess, do you see this as two separate things, like inclement weather or lack of quorum policy that allows you to step in to satisfy what we've already talked about doing in the event of something like that happening, and then also a spending contingency plan, or could we do those both as a single item?
I think they could both be a single item. The only hesitation I have is that if there's something that we didn't talk about per se, I just don't want to violate that if it's something like we haven't talked about in a certain amount of months, but we know it's coming and we just never had the chance. So I think that we can craft it so it's comprehensive enough to cover us in every situation. We can figure something out, I think, so.
Okay.
It also makes it like tricky, right? Because we're starting to lean onto the O'Connor Fund so much now. Like I said, there are some community partners that we have that are like, we know that you're good for it, you're the city and you can pay for it. Other people, they're going to want the money right away. I mean, I could try it at other places, like, I don't know.
No, I think we need to be able to figure this out.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
and we can. I don't think it'll be a large hurdle to overcome.
Yep. Okay.
Well, thank you guys, and I'll keep you up to date on that. People are welcome to come. I know that the meeting next week is in the middle of the day. That seems like, to me, the most logical because most of these people are parts of nonprofits, and it'd be a part of their gig to come at lunch. Also, feeding them is a huge draw to be able to come out and give them food. So, yeah. The entire reason that I chose KNEC at the end of the day too is that I was going to go to, we did this at the Van Dusen room last year. And again, like the library, and I'm not taking a jab at the library. They were just like, we just can't do it the way that you're asking. You have to give us the money 10 days after you reserve the room. So that put me in a bind in either I wait within the threshold where the 10 days would be within this meeting, running the risk that I can't get the room. And I already sent out letters to 168 people to say, hey, come to this meeting, which I didn't want to gamble with. And I don't think that I can stiff the library. I think that they would pull the room from me. So just to give some insight into it all. But thank you guys for understanding.
Okay. Fred, you wanted to talk about the meeting that we had?
Yeah, when was that? I wrote it down. It was the 28th. We met with the Committee for Encouraging Community-Wide Engagement. We worked on the name and at first thought it was too long, but the way it shows up out here looks okay to me, lengthwise, the name of the committee. Patrick, Nora, and I attended. Pam couldn't make it. She's out of town. And we, well, besides changing the name of our committee, we went through a list of groups that had been worked on in the previous few years that the committee has worked towards this goal. They were, and they're listed there, I think, in the report. Let me get that up. I've got a copy of it here, but so encouraging community-wide engagement. And we talked about, that's not an end-all list. We talked about adding to that and getting that information to the board and to more people about who they think might be added to this list. Okay, why isn't this working? Payments, O'Connor Fund. Anyway, African American, Latin American, Native American, LGBTQ, women, people with disabilities, and autism syndrome disorder were groups that had been discussed and talked about. Did we talk about putting a report out, a one-page report, and try to work with that and see what we could do as far as crafting that goes?
Yep. That was one of the things that was included with the report there as well.
Right.
Yeah, so part of the idea behind the one-pager was to give us something that we could show others that this is the kind of support that we can provide for the types of work that you want to do. That was our thought behind that. So some information on the grant, information on other types of ways that the commission can support their activities.
I think we talked about sending an email out with that in it and what this report would be. Now, was there another email we were gonna do before the one-page report as far as getting input from people before we put it in the report?
Well, we definitely wanted to get the commission, full commission's input on this before making any of this public. So this is something that you all will be able to contribute to.
You guys all understand what you're contributing to?
Well, just we wanted to be able to have something that we could show others so they know not just who we are, but also the ways that we can support. So whether it is through the grant or through connecting with other resources or research, or however the different things, like the different community partners that we already work with. Because we don't have infinite resources, but we do have the ability to help in some very specific ways. So I think being able to put that out there to these specific groups would be very helpful.
We're gonna meet coming up on the 17th. Is that still gonna hold with you guys, meeting on President's Day, 8 p.m.?
Yep.
And we'll see if we can advance. We want to launch a public notice, I would think as soon as we can, the one-page document. So maybe we'll know more about that at the next meeting. Talked about collaborating with the Kalamazoo Public Library. And I happened to, by chance, when I was working at the history room, ran into Ryan Gage. And I mentioned to him what I'd been bringing him up on the board the last several months about putting together untold stories of Kalamazoo and some other things. And he showed me what they produced and done, and it's all on the public website. And you'd been telling me this for months, is talk with the public library about this. And also, I think we ought to continue collaborating with them the best we can.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is great. I think that putting together a list would probably be beneficial too, because you're making a list of these groups that we could disseminate throughout the community as well if folks wanted to look at this stuff, but also it could be like a 2-pager then front and back. But putting together the things that we can do, that can be a working list, that can be something that's kind of morphs and it's fluid, right? And we have certainly finite, albeit sizable, but finite amount of money to give, but I think that we can also give expertise in historic areas as well to groups and get those stories out. So thank you for this.
I attended the lecture by Jacob Pitty Johnson last week at the library. And what he was talking about, coming home basically to his family's home in the house, he had talked to the board about that. I missed that meeting, but he had come in and talked about that at Vine and Pioneer, or is that the intersection?
It's closer to, Merrill and Pioneer, or Oak and Pioneer. I think it's in between those.
And that was at his presentation, plus what his dad had done as far as civil rights and being in the Army and his accomplishments. And at the meeting, there were several things announced coming up for Black History Month and more. And one is a summit on racism, which is you can buy tickets for it, February 28th, 12 to 2 p.m. at 180 East Water Street in Kalamazoo. And SHARE, I believe that organization is putting that on. 10 days earlier, February 18th, I should have put these in chronological order. February 18th, that's coming up soon. The North Side Association Community Development group is having a listening session at their office at 612 Park Street at 6 p.m. on the 18th. And people are encouraged to come and voice their concerns. And I think that's going to have something to do with Ransom Street and the way that proceeds. Dr. Michelle Williams, who we've tried to have come on our board the last several years, was also there talking about the Institute for Public Scholarship, which was at 313, which is office at 313 North Burdick. And talked about all the programs and the plans they've got coming up. They plan a February 20th, a homeless stage reading around February 20th. I didn't get the details where that was at. And then in the month of March, an event they're planning on is Remember the Block on March 12th. And another one more here in March is the Turnverein Project, which was the first Douglas Center office, I think down by Burdick. There's been 3 Douglas Center Association offices, and the Turnverein Project is one that they're really focusing on getting to. I think she's still, Dr. Williams is still an important person we need to connect with and talk to. I bet she's awful busy, but
She talked to us once, didn't she?
did she make a meeting?
I think
can't
she
remember.
did. I might have been a virtual. She might have
believe it
called
was.
in
The other room,
virtually.
was that when we were in the other room?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
I believe so.
Before
yes,
we were in
okay.
here. Yeah.
But they seem like they're doing a lot of good things with that institute as far as telling the story of African Americans in Kalamazoo. So, yeah, lots of stuff coming up.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Fred, very much. Any questions for Fred or comments?
I just had a quick question. So I think that kind of one pager you're talking about sounds like a really good idea. Is that something that could be also available like on the website too?
100%. Yep.
I think that would be a good spot
You
too.
can make a new tile, if you will, on for this initiative and host it there.
Oh, there's one more thing. Okay. Last night we held our first Kalamazoo in Bloom Zoom meeting on ancient garden beds and telling the story of the ancient garden beds in the region to tie into Michigan 250. And they listed sources that they come up with, and David Brose knows quite a bit about it. He's on the committee, and he was suggesting that should be something that's collaborated with us on that Kalamazoo and Bloom. I don't know what that would look like, but we should collaborate with them.
Yeah, I can reach out to them as well to talk to them further about that. Certainly.
And when I go, I'll play it up too. So
Yes, yeah. That'd be great.
Okay, I think that was all.
Thank you, Fred. All right, we're on to the coordinator's report.
The most exciting part of the meeting.
I
You
look
can tell
forward to
people are just
every month.
shaking with excitement. So first, before I know that I put my little thing about subcommittee reports, and I'm not trying to chastise folks or give anyone homework, but I'm really happy that you guys are meeting. I think that this is a great way to start off the year, is to have the subcommittees meeting and doing work outside of this room, and we meet once a month for a couple hours, right? We won't be able to achieve our goals if we don't have some kind of collaboration happening outside of chambers as well. So really, really thank you all for doing that work outside and giving time to the city to be able to make it a better place. If you guys want me to come to those subcommittee meetings and I'm not there, please let me know and I'm more than happy to come. I don't know if I was supposed to come to your guys's and I didn't come to it, so okay. You can tell me if I was supposed to, so I apologize if I wasn't. Just let me know and I'll get it on my calendar, and I'm more than happy to attend those. That being said, I think that subcommittee reports are something that's really important for us to have. Again, not trying to chastise folks, but it makes it a lot easier for the official record to be kept in a cleaner manner when we have these reports to be submitted. When I say a report, it does not need to be anything long. I think that, PAMs sometimes are really short and sometimes they're much longer. We don't need to have a novel produced unless you wish to write a novel. So, the following should be included, and it's kind of all materials, and I say that these could be pictures that you have or links to things, anything like that should be included along with a brief blurb. You can just write it even in an email or write a Word document. I probably will just attach them or include it into kind of the format that we already have. I know that I said that we should be doing them in a Word document, but it's whatever you feel most comfortable with. Please just indicate to me that the below text is meant to be included within a subcommittee report.
So Word document you'd prefer?
What was that?
Looking at a Word document is what you'd prefer?
Seems like that's what I preferred the day that I wrote
Well,
this
it
up.
probably is easier to work with, though.
Whatever is easiest for you guys. I don't want to make it a high barrier for entry for this stuff. So if it's easier just to write it up in an email, please, again, just indicate, hey, Luis, sending this stuff over. Below is what I want to have included. And then, you know, the text below is what I'll include in the report.
Okay.
I know that sometimes weeks get funky, and I send out the email late too, but we all know that these meetings are always the second week of the month, so please try to get over materials to me the first Thursday of the month, just so I have time to put them together. Your guys' packets don't take nearly as long as the HDC's, sorry HDC, but it still does take some time to get this stuff together and get it out to you guys, and I never want to get it out to you later than the Friday before, so you have time to read through this stuff. So Thursday gives me time to kind of get all my ducks in a row and get it out to you. If you ever have questions or you need help writing stuff, please do let me know. I think that you guys are all capable writers, but if you have questions about how things should be phrased, let me know, and I'm more than happy to workshop it with you. Another thing that I did not include here is that we had a meeting last week with I want to make sure that I get his name right, a new employee with the city. Sorry, I'm going to pull up his name real quick. So his name is Nate. I'm guessing that it's pronounced Ekola, but I didn't hear him say his last name, I don't think. But he is just dedicated to boards and commissions within the city of Kalamazoo, so he's going to be dealing with kind of intake for new members. And I think he's going to schedule meetings with every liaison at the city who has a board. I think that this is a great opportunity for us to be able to have more touch points with folks, so when they get on, you guys feel more confident. You guys are already on the board, but as new members come on perhaps, or to coordinate trainings maybe even with this board to understand, you know, just how to make everything move a little bit more smoothly. This board is not one that's quasi-judicial. You know, this is kind of, it's different than the HDC in that capacity. I still think it's really important to make sure that we're confident with Robert's rules. We know how to navigate those things, and I want everyone up here to feel confident when they come to these meetings. I don't want people to feel scared or anything having to come to the meetings, and I think that some of those training things would help empower you guys even more. So I just wanted to share that with you guys because it was really interesting for me to be able to have that meeting with him. It's pretty much all that I have on that front. New year, clean slate for reviews. We've only had 2 administrative reviews thus far. It's winter, not a lot of people are working on their houses right now. And next week is HDC, so we haven't had any hearings yet. Any questions about that? All right, thank you.
Commissioner comments.
I don't know if everybody heard the news, but Dean Margaret Hawk passed away of Michigan News Agency. That was a significant part of Kalamazoo and the streetscape of Kalamazoo. They had that news agency. She and her father operates, it's like the sign says, since 1947. And she was an advocate for historic information about the city.
Thank you for sharing that, Fred. I was very saddened to hear that news. I would go see Dean at least once a week, so I was really upset to hear that. I was just in there last week, so upsetting for sure. She will be very missed, and like you said, she, I think, was a very important part of this community and a very important person in this community, as is the Michigan News Agency. So
She loved journalism.
Mm-hmm.
And a voracious reader. She read a lot.
Certainly was.
Is that building protected at all?
No.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
All right. Any other comments? All right, then I think we adjourn.